Okay, so now that we have our Django project set up and we have a view and a URL set up, let's go ahead and create a database model so that we can store the clothes in our closet so we can feed AI kind of the clothes that we have, and it'll give us an actual outfit based on what we own. And so what we want to do first is, if we remember before when we ran the server, we had these 18 unapplied migrations. And those are actually from these other apps that were pre-installed out of the box with Django Admin, Auth, etc. And they have tables. Each of them have tables that they want to use and need to use. And so we need to actually update the database to have those tables. So we're going to go back into the terminal and run Python manage.py migrate. Perfect. And this updated the database. So now we have the tables necessary for these pre-installed apps. We won't see that. And now we can go ahead and create our table for our clothes so we can actually store our clothing items. And so what we're going to do is go into core models.py. Here is where we'll actually create our table. And in Python, we create these tables as these classes. So we'll say class clothing, the name of the table, and then that will inherit from models.model, which we import, is automatically imported at the top. And then we can define our fields. So we can define our fields. So we can have a field be title. This will be the title of the clothing. So like a t-shirt, blue jeans. And we will use models.car field. And so there's a number of different fields. Text field, Boolean field. For this one, we'll use a car field, which is string character field. We have to set max length. And we'll So now this will create a table clothing, and each row will have a field title. Now the last thing we want to do is create a dunder string method. So double underscore str double underscore self. And what we return here is just the string representation of items in this model when we see them in various parts of the Django application. So it's easier to know which item we're looking at. So we can return self.title, and basically that instead of seeing things as like object 1, this is how they would show up, not very descriptive, we will now see them as like blue jeans, something like that. So it's a more descriptive way to. So now we've created the model, we've created the field, we've updated the dunder string method. Let's go ahead and migrate these changes into our database. And so what we have to do, this is a two-step process. The first thing is we want to make a migration file, which are basically instructions for how to update the database, how to create these tables. So Python manage.py make migrations, all one word, and you can add the app if you just want to make the migrations for one app at a time to separate things out. So we can, now those were created. If we go into the migrations folder in our core app, we can actually see this is 001 initial right here. And now that those instructions were created, let's go ahead and actually migrate those and update the database. So Python manage.py migrate, and this will run through that new migrations file and actually create this table. Awesome, so we have this table, but now we want to interact with it, and Django comes out of the box with a nice shell that we can hop into here in the terminal to actually interact with our kind of project, and specifically in this instance, our models. So we'll say Python manage.py shell. And this will pop us right into a shell that gives us access to the project and this Django ORM API out of the box. Now it automatically imports the models. Previously we would have to import the models at the top here, but this is nice. Now we can just start interacting with our models. So we could say clothing.objects.all. And we can see we don't have any objects, any clothing items saved, so it just returns this empty query set. And query set is kind of like a list-like object. It's not exactly a list. So now let's create a piece of clothing. So we'll say C, we'll assign it to a variable C equals clothing, and we can pass in the title equals blue t-shirt, like so. Click enter. Then if we do c.save, this will actually update the database. So if we run that clothing.objects.all again, now we can see we have this query set with this item clothing, blue t-shirt. And right here is where we see this string returning the title, blue t-shirt, instead of just saying like. We can go ahead and create another item a different way. So we can also say clothing.objects.create and pass in the title equals blue jeans. And with this method, or this way of doing it, we don't have to call the save function. It'll automatically get saved. And what we see returned is this specific. We can call clothing.objects.all again to see both items. So now we see this query set of blue t-shirt and blue jeans. We can also delete an item by first querying to select maybe the first item that we created. So x equals clothing.objects.all and then .first. So this will get all of the items, this query set here, and then it will get the first item only. And if we say what is x, x is the blue t-shirt, and we can call x.delete, and this deleted that blue t-shirt. If we call clothing.objects.all again, we can see we just have one item now, blue jeans. Awesome. So now we can exit this by typing exit, hitting enter, and it'll pop us out of that. Now this is very useful, a nice way to hop into your Django project and be able to update the database, but it's within this terminal, and I would rather have a graphical user interface, some kind of GUI that I could click buttons and update things and create clothing items. And luckily Django comes with that out of the box with their Django Admin. So let's go ahead and set that up now so we can do all of these wonderful CRUD activities with our clothing items via a user interface. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a super user because we need to log into the admin portal. So we'll say python manage.py create super user, all one word, click enter, and then it will ask us to create a username and password. I'll just put djvac, the email address dom@sub.com. This obviously doesn't matter right now, it's just on our local computer. And then password, I'm just going to put password 123, password 123. If you wanted to create something that was much more secure on a live site, you would do that, but this is just local on our computers. It's saying that, hey, that's not that secure. I'm saying, yes, that's okay. So now we have a super user created successfully. So now let's go ahead and run our server again, and we can check out the admin. So python manage.py, run server. We don't see those errors anymore, and if we go into localhost 8000/admin, it will bring us to this login portal. So we want to enter that username and password we just set up for that super user so we can log in. Awesome. And now we're able to see this admin portal. Now we see groups and users, which are included out of the box. We don't see clothing. We don't see our clothing table. So let's go ahead and update our code now to include that so we can see our clothing items right here. So what we're going to want to do is navigate back into core admin.py. And now we want to register our clothing table with the admin so it knows to show it. So we'll go ahead and import this clothing table from core.models import clothing. And then we want to register this clothing table, this clothing model with the admin. So we say admin.site.register and then clothing, like so. Now make sure the server is running and pull back up the admin portal. If we click refresh on the admin portal, we see clothing. So if we click clothing, we see we have the blue jeans that we created. We can go in there and add another item, maybe like a black t-shirt. Click save, and now we see our two items. We can select our blue jeans and select delete. It'll say, are you sure you want to delete these? Yes, I'm sure. So this is a nice way to interact, create, update, delete items for our models. It comes out of the box with Django, which is great. But in the next video, we're actually going to take it one step further and kind of make our app much better. And we're going to be able to create and update and delete clothing items right in our application so we can maintain our closet and see exactly what items we will be able to feed to AI to tell us what to wear. So the next video is going to be, in my opinion, much better than this one. So see you